Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzales, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Can you raise a family with both parents working in the business full time? If you've been listening for a while, you know that Rachel and I have been struggling with the pull between both worlds, business and family. And in that struggle, we've explored a lot, figured out more what's important to us. Recently, episode 51 of the podcast, we shared that Rachel is stepping away from BNI, Business Networking International group that she'd been a part of for about 6 years. It was taking a lot of time and maybe not 100% aligned with her goals. And through that experience and reflecting on the last, 3 weeks or so since that decision, 4 weeks now, we've come a long way, and we're still examining how you can make it work when there's just not enough time in the day.
Yeah, I mean, not just that, but the different things that pull your attention and what you want to focus on. You know, my goals have changed. I want to be with my boys more. I don't want to feel guilty being with my boys because I should be working and doing this or that task or whatever that might be. But I still have a lot of things that I'd like to contribute to the business. So there's that pull. And that's what we wanted to explore today. You know, can you both be working full-time in the business and have a family? And I think for me, the answer is no.
Yes.
I cannot.
Yes.
And I don't want to either. I want to have it more of the business is secondary to the family for me. And for you, business or family is secondary for you.
Right.
The contribution that we make for our family is you work in the business the majority of the time, and I work in the family the majority of the time.
Why?
Because I want that and you want that. Both places benefit more. So you could reference the previous podcast that you listened to about the different hats. You know, if you have multiple hats that you're wearing, none of them get the proper attention that they deserve. So I find the pull with, I want to be with my boys, but I feel guilty really being present with my boys because I have work to do and I need to get in there. And, you know, right now I'm really limited, even though we have a nanny and she's here from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 and Lincoln goes down for a nap at 12. So we essentially have the ability to work from 8:30 to about 1:30 when Lincoln wakes up. So that's a significant chunk of time. Even though that's available for me, I find that I'm not able to do that as a breastfeeding mom because August is up, he needs to eat. Then I'm holding him while he's awake for his wake cycle, and then he goes back down to sleep. And then I have just a limited time. So really being honest about what I want is really, really helpful for me.
I think most entrepreneurs can relate to the story I'm about to share, which is having one foot in and one foot out.
Yeah.
In the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey back in 2009, 2010, I was working 30 hours a week at my family's dry cleaning business, going to grad school, and building my first business online. And I remember this conversation with an old friend of mine, and he's like, dude, if you really want to make this work, at some point you are going to have to burn the boats and leave your job so that you can dedicate that time to your business.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but I can definitely make something happen with the 3 to 4 hours I have a day that are in the evening before I go to bed, and I can just grind it out. But it's not just about the time that you have invested to do something and accomplish something. It's about your attention and the focus that you can give something.
Yeah.
And when you're not doing that thing, that you can be present with the other thing.
Right.
And so
that you can actually turn that other thing off.
And you can turn the other thing off. So what I found was by the time that I finished grad school and I did burn the boats, I gave myself 6 months for the business to provide enough income for me to live.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. Okay.
It grew to fill that.
Yeah, it grew to fill that. I replaced the income that I was getting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was back to what I was used to, and then I could grow from there. And it's like, again, it's just not about the time, it's about the focus. And so it was like when I'm at the dry cleaner, I'm thinking about the business. I'm not actually there at the dry cleaner.
Sure.
You know?
But also you're probably maybe thinking, you know, I could make way more money. I could get way further in my goals. I could, you know, you're really distracted there because your heart and your thoughts and your mind really want to be in that other place.
Right.
And that's kind of where I felt.
That's where you have felt. You have felt the pull from the business.
Yep.
In such a way that was like, man, this is really detracting from my goals and what I want at home.
Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to be a mom. That is an underlying theme here in this podcast. I have always wanted to be a mom, and I have 2 beautiful boys, and I want to be around them. I want to be with them in the evenings and in the afternoons when they wake up from their naps, and not feel guilty.
Yeah.
But also help our business grow in the way that I can.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think like before this shift, we can talk about, we were like, so where do you think we were like percentage-wise in terms of our mental state?
Yes.
You know, Rachel feels like she was like 60% business, 40% home.
Yeah.
I felt like I was more like 70% business, 30% home.
Yeah.
And it's totally shifted for Rachel.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Gosh.
now it's like 20% in the business and focus on the business, but 80% is like, you know, now that we've relieved her of certain things and activities, and we'll talk more about this in future podcasts, we're working on transitioning Rachel out of all of the day-to-day stuff.
Right.
So no more client-facing things that have her tied to the computer at specific times.
Right.
Right?
The specific times are what are the most frustrating during
Difficult.
this time, because with a baby, they could be napping at 11 today, and next week it could be a totally different time. So when I set my meetings, it's just not going to work. And then I have a crying baby, which is not okay on a business meeting, you know, that kind of stuff. So we want to avoid that.
Mm-hmm. So we shifted it, right? So we said, you know what,
Yep.
Rachel, like let's just not have you doing some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Now your focus is 20% business, but the majority is at home, right? And so it's like, what have I seen in Rachel? I have seen her, you know, looking up all these new recipes to cook and prep food for Lincoln.
Right.
She has baked more in the last 2 weeks than she had in the previous 6 months,
Yeah.
right? Something that she likes to do. You know, there's just all these things.
And I grew up making things from scratch. So I really know, I have a lot of knowledge around that, and I really enjoy doing that. So I'm really in my happy place. In addition to, you know, checklists and all these things that I can accomplish, I feel like I can really bring that strength to our family, the organization and of our home and our spaces, and the home feeling that it can have, and the love and that kind of space. That's what I can bring, and the food that is good for our bodies and going to help us grow. Those things matter. So I have really been in my happy place in this new ratio of 20% business, 80% at home. And I am not feeling guilty about the things that I can and cannot do. I'm just seeing that those are things that are also going to phase out, but I do the things that are required.
Right. And then for me, it's like I have this ambition and this drive to grow. And I have felt so, I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. I have felt so held back by the home life.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what's happening for me is I'm sitting here and like, let's talk about like last week. Last week, the baby woke up earlier than expected and you had a meeting.
Yes.
So I had to step away from work to hold the baby for 30 minutes while you took a meeting instead of working. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, this sucks. I have things that I wanted to do today for the goals of our business, and that is a micro example of how much I have felt like I am just sitting here waiting until the next time that I can work.
Yeah. Well, and that's one example where I am not able to say, Avram, you go. I've got this. You go work. You go out of the house if you need to work. That's an example where I actually can't. I am required for that meeting. So that is also another reason why we're getting me out of the client meetings, because then I am not bound to time. Then what it offers me the ability to do is say, no, Avram, this is your time to work. Go do it. You don't have to feel bad. I'll bring you snacks. You want to work all the way up until 1:30? I'll bring you snacks, then you can eat lunch. That's the kind of place that I want to be. I love being the support role for people in so many different ways. And I love that role in our household.
So it's like making this shift. And now that I know that Rachel's not feeling like she's waiting around to work,
Right.
I don't feel guilty when I say, hey, I need another 30 minutes
Right.
this afternoon to just finish up some stuff.
Right, because there was that tug of war before where it was like, well, if you're working, then I'm not. And, when am I going to be able to fit that thing in? So now that that's been alleviated in so many places, really in all the places that I was doing all these things during the time that you would need to work have been alleviated. So I've been able to totally say, yeah, just go do it. How's that made you feel having a little bit more time?
Oh, it's great.
At times.
Again, it's like all this guilt-free stuff. And then I feel like I'm on mission and, I am doing what I promised my spouse that I would do.
Yeah.
So that also feels really good.
Yeah.
To feel like, yeah, we are moving now in all the places that I said that we can and that we will.
Yep.
And then I'm able to do it, be in control, and make it happen.
I wanted to ask you, we talked about how we've phased me out of BNI, so I'm no longer there. And you can listen to that podcast. There's tons of stuff that we talk about. But
Episode 51.
how has it helped you in your focus in your BNI chapter? Because we're still represented in BNI as a business. How has it helped you to feel different about that?
Well, I am very good at this method of generating referrals, and I'm very good at finding referrals for other people. I'm very good at training on all the things to help people to find more referrals. It really is one of my happy places. And so it's one of the other areas where I was feeling held back, like I couldn't dump in all the way. I felt like some of the activities that are required to make that work, that it was going to be unfair to you, to our family, and to the business to be taking extra time doing that when there were other things that were not getting served.
Sure. So you've offloaded some of those things that were requiring your time. Then you're able to put more time. I think you're putting, like
Double.
I would say double.
Double time.
Absolutely. So you're able to actually make that avenue work better for us. So really reorienting our time and giving me ownership of the household where I want to be. I am so excited. This is where I've always wanted to be. And then giving you ownership of the business. I think you're also super excited and you're like a little bit more maybe centered and energetic about it and excited about your days, as opposed to, like you said, feeling held back. I have felt held back by the business, so vice versa. No offense meant.
No.
That's how we felt. But I think that owning up to it, being honest about it, finding a solution, saying yes to things and no to things, and moving on. Oh, gosh, it feels great.
Yeah. I think that it's very hard to both be working in the business, because that's just where we're at.
Correct.
Some aspects we're out, but a lot we're still in. So working in the business, both you and your spouse, and raising a family is impossible unless you've got full-time care for your kids.
Right.
And that's
But
just
I want
not,
to
I
want to be there to know why he's saying the word legendary. Is that from a book or a movie or a show? What is that? I want to know those things. That's really precious to me.
And I think what we were doing and why we were so frustrated is we were coming up against what is essentially an impossible ask of ourselves.
Absolutely. And
An
also,
expectation.
And that expectation could have been from outward sources like, well, they're doing it or they're doing it. Comparison is the thief of happiness. If we're comparing ourselves to somebody else and the only reason why we're doing that thing is because somebody else is doing it, or we perceive that somebody else is doing it, we're doing ourselves a disservice.
The aha moment for me, and we'll wrap here, I was watching a clip from Diary of a CEO, and Steven, the host of that show, was interviewing somebody.
Yeah.
And the gentleman there shared what he and his wife have been doing for the last 20, 25 years. They look at their professional careers as seasons. And the communication they have with each other is like, okay, is this my all-in season or is this your all-in season? And I don't remember the exact words they used, but they recognize that only one person's professional role can be given a primary level of energy and
I love that.
and that the other person is going to be primarily focused on family and everything else during that time. You can't have both people having I think the word he used was big job
Yeah.
at the same time. Because it just doesn't work unless you have full-time care. And then we discussed, that's just not the journey that we're on and what we want.
Nope.
Right? So I think that's just kind of where we've ended up is like letting go of the expectation that we could both do it in the business and perform at what we have seen before as 100%.
Right.
Our 100% is not the same anymore.
Right. Well, the 100% is allowing that person to have their role in the business. Like my contribution to you in the business is letting you be in the business and have no regrets, not feeling like you are needed anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And for you, same thing. You are in the business and not resenting me for being outside of it in our household. So, those are two things that go hand in hand. And, being honest about what you want and how you're going to get it. That's really the conclusion of everything that we've been talking about is, are you really clear on what you want and willing to ask for it and make it happen?
Yeah. Another topic for another day is, man, if Rachel wasn't super interested in a role with the family, I think the only other option would be full-time childcare.
Sure, absolutely. But that's not even a discussion that we're going to have because that is nowhere within our future. Yeah. I don't want that at all. Yeah. I love being here with
It's an interesting journey. When we started Babies in Business, we didn't think that we'd end up here.
That's true. It's true. But it's also funny to see where we are as opposed to where we were and how we felt then, but were we really connected to how we felt and the eventuality of what it would look like now. And there's so many things that change and change how we see, perceive, feel, and all the things. So we're allowed to change. I think that's what I'm trying to say is you're allowed to change. You're allowed to want something different, speak it, say it to your partner, have discussions about it, have open discussions.
Be realistic.
Yep.
I mean, it's taken us 2 years to get to this point where it's like, you know what? This actually isn't working the way that we're trying to make it work.
Correct. There was just so much anxiety. And we have a question for you.
Yeah.
What is your primary role in your family? That could be supporting the family in the family side, or it could be working in the business that you have, supporting your family on the financial side.
Let us know. Connect with us online, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. What's your primary role in your family? Look for that post, comment. We'd love to hear from you. If you got questions or topic suggestions, you can email us at hello@babiesinbiz.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're also looking for those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you haven't done that yet, please go in there, do that, and let other people know how badass the Babies in Business podcast really is. With that, we appreciate you for listening in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.